What's up guys? This is James from Seville Homebrewing. So what I'm going to do today is video my setup, how I brew beer. Today's actually kind of a special brew. It's my 50th beer since I've started homebrewing about 5 years ago. So what I'm going to do is a 10-gallon batch, and come on in here, Jeff, I'll show you around a little bit. So what I'm going to do is make a 10-gallon boil, and then I'm going to split it off into like an American pale, real hoppy. But the other one's going to be totally different. It's going to be a bourbon vanilla stout. So some advanced techniques in there, but I'll explain everything kind of as I go along. We're about to mash in, so I got my malts here from our local Murphy and Rude malting company here right in Charlottesville. This guy Jeff Bloom is awesome. He just opened up shop a couple months ago rather, and he buys all his grains here in town around Virginia and malts it right here in my neighborhood. So pretty excited to use his stuff. Yeah, so I'm gonna get to it and then I will be back. So alright, so I'm here picking up my malts from Murphy and Rude Malting Company here in Charlottesville. This guy Jeff Bloom, who's walking around here, he is a new guy in town to buy malts from. Pretty sweet location right down in Charlottesville. So he creates the malted barley here, his whole facility. What's up, Jeff?
What's up?
Yeah. So what do we got here?
So that is your, what do you call these things? Your split batch grain bill. So it's 27 pounds of our pale malts. I mixed in I think I milled in 2 pounds of Crystal 60 for you in that bag. And then 1.5 pounds of our milk chocolate, which is our pale chocolate malts, about 250, 270 Lovabond, and then a splash of our Baker's Cocoa, which is our black malt, weighs in at just over 600 Lovabond. So it's a good matchup in the dark roast category to have both of those malts together. It really shines well. So it's gonna be some good beers coming out of this, I think.
Yeah, I'm super excited. You'll have to come over and try it.
You know it.
Cool, thanks. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is called mashing in. So I got all my grains over here. I'm adding them to my mash tun, and I'm pouring in about 170 degree, it's called strike water, which is in my keg right over there. Got about 11 gallons of water in that keg. It's running down through my pump. So if you see right over here, beer is coming in, going through the pump, and heading right up into the mash tun. And we're basically just gonna create like an oatmeal out of this hot water and mash. Running it all the way up through here. So yeah, let you know when we're done. All right, so here is the mash. It's right at 156 degrees, which is kind of my full body temperature I want here to extract all the sugars and everything. So this is gonna sit for about 1 hour in the mash tun. Yeah, so actually now is about the most chill time I'm gonna have all day for the next hour or so, and then I'll be back to drain it, and yeah, we'll be back. So rule number one, first of all, I forgot this, is always drink a beer while you're home brewing. So this is a pale that I brewed, I don't know, a few months ago. It's good. But what I'm doing here basically is transferring water. So I have my mash that's about done. So I'm gonna heat up some sparge water, which will basically allow me to re-rinse the grains after I transfer the first runnings of the mash into my boil kettle. You know, what we want to do here is get the sparge water up to a temperature that we can then run into the grains and the mash and get to our full boil volume. So that's what we're doing. All right, so it's been about an hour, and the mash is ready to start draining the first running. So what I'm gonna do now is just open this valve super slowly, and you can see kind of how grainy it's coming out. It's real hazy. Basically what you want to do is start it slow enough that the grain bed in here in the mash tun can actually settle. That'll act kind of as a filter for the liquid. So we're gonna fill this pot up a couple times. We're gonna dump it back into the mash tun, and then we're gonna open this up kind of full valve and just let it flow. Once that is ready to go, we're gonna transfer it into the boil kettle over there. We got the sparge water in that one that's heating up, so that sparge water will go right back into the mash tun after the mash has been drained off, or the first runnings have been drained. And then once that drains again, we will be boiling. So check you back in a few minutes. So now we are draining the mash into the boil kettle right there. You can see it's flowing through this pump, and it's going right into the boil kettle. All right, so now we are doing the sparge. So we got the hot water from the water tank over there. Got all the first runnings of the mash into the boil kettle, running through the pump and just giving everything a nice rinse. This is going to help to wash all the additional sugars off the grains, make sure that we hit our target efficiency. Yeah, that's such a critical step here, and yep, that's the sparge. All right, so we just got to boil here, as you can see. Got about 14.5 gallons of wort that just got to a nice rolling boil. So now is when I want to add my bittering hops. So I'm adding Chinook, pretty high alpha, 11.6%. So this should give me, I already added about ½ ounce in the first wort hopping, and then this is going to be 1.5 ounces. It probably puts me at about 40 IBUs or so, which, you know, for a 10-gallon batch, one's going to be a pale ale, one's going to be a stout. It should be pretty good, nicely balanced between there. So, all right, so that's pretty much it for the boil hops. The bittering hops are in, so the rest of the hops are going to pretty much go in for dry hopping the pale ale. So I'm going to be adding those. You know, you'll see the video after a little while, because that takes some time after the beer ferments and everything. I'll add the dry hops to the pale ale. Let me get it back up to a boil here. All right, so we just got down off our boil. Hour later, we are whirlpooling. So Assistant Jeff Miller here is giving that a good spin while I set up my chiller. So it's gonna be crazy when it's actually chilling, so I probably won't video that process, but I'm just gonna give an overview of what's going on here. So the boiling hot wort that is still at, you know, 205 degrees right now. You can see all the steam kind of coming off that thing. That's gonna drain from the spigot into basically my wort chiller here, or sorry, my pump. So it's gonna come down into the pump, and I'll go ahead and connect this now. So this hose here will connect to the end of the valve there. So that will flow into the pump, which will then flow all the way through the side of that and into the back of the Fermenter, which is my plate chiller. But considering it's August 9th and like 90 degrees today, groundwater is just not going to be good enough here for getting this beer from 200 plus degrees down to 68 or 65, which is my ideal temp. So then this is going to run from the Fermenter up through, so wort out right here. So this is going up into this copper immersion chiller, which this is going to be filled with ice water. And so it'll get an extra kick of really cold frigid water there. The beer will go through here and down through my inline thermometer. So hopefully we are, you know, down in the 60, 68 degree range. You can see just the groundwater here is like 86 degrees. That's no good. So this is my sanitation bucket. I got my fermenter buckets right over here. So basically this is going to split off into 2 batches. We ended up with 13, a little more than 13 gallons, which is perfect. This kegel has about a pound or a quarter, or a gallon and a little bit more, maybe a gallon and a quarter dead space in it. So we'll get right to about 12 gallons, 6 gallons in each fermenter. Should be perfect. The gravity came out at like 1.05859, something like that. So it's going to be, I think, a good, like, solid 6.5–7% beer. Yeah. Cool. All right, so for this special batch, I have cold steeped all my dark chocolate malts and black malts overnight. So this way, when I add them to the fermenter, I'll have all this, you know, awesome black roasty flavor and color, but since I'm doing a 10-gallon batch, I'm splitting it into 2 batches. I won't affect the other beer, so this is going to be really cool because I'm going to have a pale ale and then a chocolate stout from the same boil. Yeah, it's really cool way to do this, and a little bit of an advanced technique, but it's actually simple. And cold steeping the chocolate and dark malts actually helps to reduce a lot of the acrid and harsh flavors that you might get from putting it in your normal mash. So here's my mash tun that I'm going to put all the base malts in and everything. And if I put all these dark malts in there, first of all, I wouldn't be able to split it in the boil kettle, but secondly, you're going to get a lot of, you know, the harsh flavors. Like if you have hot coffee versus cold brew coffee, there's a big difference. So kind of the same idea, and basically I just have a little, basically this is my same exact mash tun braided hose that acts kind of as a filter here, and then a ball valve on this side so I can drain off all of my sweet chocolatey goodness right here, and, you know, keep all the husks and stuff out. So this is just going to go right into the fermenter. All right, so this is the cold steeped, basically chocolate malt mash that I did overnight. So I just did a cold steep of all the dark malts and everything. That's going to go into my bourbon vanilla porter here. So that is real thick stuff, dark as hell. So that's gonna be on that one, and we're just gonna split the beer coming out of the fermenter here, or not the fermenter, the boil kettle. That's going to go in, cool down, hopefully in this big ice bath right up here, and then out into both fermenters. And I'll just switch them back and forth. We're aiming for like 68 degrees, so let's give this bad boy a go. Yeah, not yet. Go ahead with that. Okay, and first we're gonna run off just a little bit of water. Okay, it's about to go. There it goes. Get the water out of the system. All right, looks like beer now. Yeah. Let's see what the temperature is coming through at. Ooh, look at that. 74 degrees. I'm even gonna turn this down just a tad. That'll slow down the flow and hopefully will give us even cooler temperature. That is crazy. It's August, it's like 90 some degrees out here, and I'm getting in the 70s. Let's bring it real down here. See if we can cut it down to like the 68, 70 range. Get that water stir, por favor. Over here. Yeah, it's dropping almost at 72 now. 70. So again, this is going through the fermenter with groundwater, which is about almost 90 degrees, about 88 degrees groundwater. Then it's going through an immersion chiller, which is sitting in an ice bath, which is bringing it all the way down to 70. I mean, this might take me about 15-20 minutes, but for 10 gallons of beer to be able to bring that down to 68-70 degrees. Yeah. 68. Sweet. That's great. Yeah, so we have been chilling for maybe about 10 minutes. I'm at 68 degrees coming through the thermometer here. It's awesome. I'm getting the perfect fermenting temperature. Get in on these buckets over here. You can see the beer. So take a look at this one. It's definitely like a pale color. I mean, you can see a little caramel, maybe a deep yellow, and this one over here, freaking dark, like black almost. It's gonna be it's gonna be my stout, my chocolate stout. So I'm just going back and forth in these buckets, filling them up with sweet goodness.
Showing that temperature.
Oh, yeah.
Just so you guys can see.
66 degrees. Coming at you. It's hot out here. Like a good 90-degree day, humid, sweating it out, but it's a good day to brew. Got the day off. It's Thursday. I'm just hanging out. My boy Jeff. Glad you came out, man.
Yeah, man. Like, you guys will see what he is sanitizing in a second here.
All right, so you want your wort really aerated before you put your yeast in it. Yeast like very aerated wort, lots of oxygen. So this is pretty sweet drill powered, just like whisker here. So there you go. I used to do this by hand with a spoon, pain in the ass. This, although my drill's about to die, it sounds like, this thing's kind of struggling, so I'll just whisk it a little bit, get this guy a little bit, might have to do it analog here in a minute. But the idea here is you just want to get some aeration, some oxygen, and
different color.
Yeah.
Even in the bubbles.
Yeah, the vanilla. It's going to be a bourbon vanilla stout on the right, and a really hoppy American pale. So I'm not going to cross-contaminate these. I'm not going to go back to the other one now. Hold that thing pure. All right, and now the yeast, which is right here. So here is yeast starter. So basically I am taking 250 grams of malt extract, just light malt extract, boiling it for about 10 minutes or so, and then cooling it and filling it in this flask and adding yeast. Now the purpose of this is to basically increase your yeast for bigger batches. Since I'm brewing a 10-gallon batch, I am using what I harvested from the last batch of beer. It's a California ale, and yeah, splitting it off into 2 different beers, so it'll be really interesting at the end. Cool, well, I will be back. All right, so got the malt extract boiling now, so just give it, like I said, about 10 minutes, bring it to a nice boil, cool it, and then you keep going. So once the extract has been boiled for about 10 minutes, drop it in some cold water or put it in the refrigerator or something just to get the temperature down to yeast pitching temps around maybe like 80 degrees or below. And then you can, once you get down there, you add the yeast. All right, so here's my yeast starter. about 24 hours after I added my yeast, and it's doing its thing, creating more little buddies for my double batch beer. So I have this stir plate here, which is a really critical component. You can't really see, but there's lots of movement going on there. Basically, it's a metal stir rod that's being whipped around in a circle like this by this device, which is essentially a fan with a magnet hooked to it. So it creates a lot of activity for the yeast and really helps the starter. So I'll probably do this one more time tomorrow and really double up again and have lots of yeast. Cool. So I have 2 yeast vials, which I propagated over the last couple of days. That goes in that one. Goes in that one. Oh, a little bit left, see? That's, now I gotta figure out a way to scoop some out. So I'm just gonna, a little bit of that out. Got a nice mix. There we go. All good.
All right.
So now we get the lids, which are sanitized and ready to go right here. This one goes, I believe, on that one. This one's gonna go on this one. And we will get these down, and I'm gonna bring them down to about 64, 68 degrees. Right now they are at 70, 72, which is pretty amazing that ice chiller worked as well as it did, as hot as it is out here right now. I'm sweating. It's a warm day, but that's how you make beer, guys. So I'll be back after these have fermented and check in. All right, it is transfer day. So I am taking my beer that's been fermenting for the last week and a half or so. I have my pale ale here, and this is the stout. I'm going to be transferring them into carboys, and for the pale ale, it's going to be getting 2 ounces of dry hops, 1 ounce of El Dorado, 1 ounce of Azacca. Should give it a lot of tropical, fruity flavors right on the nose. So basically you want to put your dry hops in first and then transfer the beer on top of that. That way you know everything's gonna mix around properly. So yeah, I'm also gonna be taking my gravity samples to check the final gravity, see where I ended up. That way I can calculate my ABV. So yeah, I'll see you later. We are actively transferring. As you can see, I have this little auto siphon that is taking the beer out of the fermenter down into the secondary here. I've already added the hops at the bottom, so everything is just getting all swirled in there. You can see a bunch of the dry hop pellets. You want to introduce as little oxygen as possible, so you got to make sure your hose is at the bottom of your carboy here, and you know, just actively monitor the siphon to make sure that you're just not getting any air into the beer at this stage. So pretty important step there. All right, well, we're at beer tasting day. It's been about 2.5 weeks since dry hopping. Added the dry hops for about 5 days. Kegged the beer, which you can see right in here is the keg. So yeah, it's running. Now we're gonna see how this pours. So it should be fully carbonated now after a couple of weeks. You wanna get a little closer here? Yeah, so it's looking real nice here. All right. So that is how you make beer, everybody. Cheers.
Delicious.